Greetings, everyone, and welcome to the Quest for Wisdom podcast, where we search for nuggets of wisdom from the lives of some truly amazing people. Today, we delve into the weird and wonderful life of a drag queen with our guest Bonnie Oui Laddie, also known as Jon Gerrard. Bonnie Oui Laddie is Barcelona's only Scottish saxophone tooting, porno fratenising, cabaret star, drag queen and MILF. Bonnie Oui Laddie has hosted the Grabbys, also known as the Oscars of gay porn, as well as Spain's Mr. Rubber event, and hosting and performing at Kit Kat Club in Berlin and many other high-profile events. Today we discuss sexuality, gender, cross-dressing, and many other fascinating topics. You can find Bonnie Oui Laddie at bonnie.oui.laddie. Laddie. Bonnie Oui Laddie is an inspirational human, full of vitality and wit. I hope you enjoy our conversation as much as I did. Welcome, JG, Bonnie Oui Laddie, to episode 5 of the Quest for Wisdom podcast.
Thank you. Hello. And you can choose whichever one you want, Bonnie or JG. I'm easy with either of them. I've got a whole group of people who know me as only Bonnie, and whenever they hear JG, they're like, "Who the fuck?" They've never heard of her before. And then, of course, the other people who don't know who Bonnie is as well. But since you're privy to both of them, I don't mind which one you choose.
Well, I know you as both. I met you first as JG.
It was, yeah.
But then I think when we met at Pub Limerick, you were performing something there, were you not? That was many years ago, but I can't remember if I saw you first then in drag.
No, I think I normally did Pub Limerick as myself as JG, so I was trying something new, and I did it once with the Society of Degenerative Artists. Remember
Oh,
them?
yeah.
I did something in drag with them, and that was like the first time where I did drag, but it was still me as in drag. So because I've got Bonnie's an entire character that I've cultivated, and then when I did that that show, it was the first time I'd done myself, but wearing her costume. So I thought that was even more vulnerable.
Yeah.
Because I can always hide behind her as a character on stage, which was interesting. So doing all that sort of thing, like the poetry reading that sort of thing, was definitely a lot more vulnerable. It's for me, because I've always hidden behind a character on the stage. That's how you that.
Yeah, I can totally get that. There is something extremely vulnerable about poetry. And when I first wrote some funny poems, most of my poems are characters, and when I first started performing them to my girlfriend Emma, I would perform them in the character voice. But when I got on stage, I just couldn't do it in those character voices. And Emma's like, "Do them in the character voices. It's so funny." But then for me, I really wanted to be comfortable on stage, become confident on stage as myself.
Wow.
Before I started doing the characters, because otherwise I just pictured like someone like Sacha Baron Cohen,
Yeah.
amazing, but then it's like no one knows them as themselves, and it's crazy.
That's so interesting. That's the exact reverse for me.
For me, I did that what I found the uncomfortable way, because I knew that it would be more. Generally, I go to what's going to make me feel more uncomfortable.
Okay.
Because I know that that's probably the right thing to do.
Yeah.
For me anyway.
Definitely the bravest.
Yeah, but then maybe we've skipped a little bit further in. So you are a human. Yeah, you are I've started saying that to people because I imagine if I run this for a decade or something, maybe I'll be interviewing some AIs or something, and then I'll say you're a human. They'll say yes, and I'll say, well, how do I know you're a human? Prove it to me.
Click the squares for the traffic lights.
Yeah, exactly. How do I know you're a human? You could just be a really advanced robot.
Right.
So you're a human. You are a teacher, a teacher trainer.
Yeah, day job.
You are a poet.
Well, yeah.
A performer and a drag queen.
Yeah.
So
it's quite a mix, isn't it?
It's quite a mix. Yeah, it is quite a mix. So today, really, would like to dig into the drag queen side of things, how that first came about, and also you mentioned to me just a little bit about how that clashed then with the teaching when you were a middle school teacher. So I'd like to dig into that a little bit more. So can you first start by explaining a little bit about when you were growing up, and how it all developed, how you developed into you, JG, and
Mm.
you, Bonnie Oui Laddie.
Great. Well, JG is like my name is Jon Gerrard, and it's kind of Irish Catholic. I'm from Scotland, if you can't tell by the accent, but
Not
yeah,
Glasgow.
I'm from Glasgow, absolutely. But like Irish Catholic family, very very like kind of strict upbringing, and kind of the church was very iconic, very proper, very important for the kind of growing up. I was an altar boy, blah blah, all that sort of thing. Although 7 years an altar boy, not one priest tried to fuck me, so fucking ridiculous. So their father, love your handbag, nice, nothing. You know what I mean? Fucked, whatever. But yeah, no, I did the whole Catholic thing for years, and what actually kind of like pomp and ceremony and the glamour of the Catholic Church actually kind of inspired the drag. I would go to church and I loved the whole drama, the dramatics and the theatrics of it. Because what is Sunday Mass? It's just drag brunch, really, isn't it? A guy in a dress, giving out bread and wine, making everyone sing songs. It's fucking drag brunch. Is what I do every Sunday. So yeah, I kind of see it as something just exactly the same. But yeah, the Catholic Church kind of did have an influence because, of course, I mean, without going into all the highs and lows and dramas of being a queer or being a gay kid in the 90s in Scotland under the Catholic Church, like I first knew I was different, and I first knew that I first was bullied, I suppose, or told that you weren't right, or you weren't correct by my family and by the Catholic Church, not by peers. That came later. Everyone had me figured out before I had me figured out.
So how old were you when you figured it out?
I mean, I was straight until I was 20. Yeah,
Whoa.
girlfriend a lot. Oh yeah, 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 yeah.
But
I
but you but you you were consciously aware that you were gay and hiding it?
of course, of course, of course. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, I knew like I think everyone kind of says this kind of become a cliche now. I always knew I was different. I always knew that I didn't like the regular stuff, the football, all that was done for me. I was uh I was definitely the one wearing mum shoes and all that sort of drama. And I was in theatre, I did dancing and that sort of thing. And so I always knew I was different from the other boys. And then same-sex attraction didn't really kick off until, funny enough, it was my dad's fault actually. I was years I kind of like not wanting to do football, and then he kind of like said like, come on, try something, let's go into rugby. And rugby, I'm sure most of you know, is probably the most homoerotic sport in the world. And it was then when I was like, oh shit, this is brilliant, but for a different reason.
Yeah.
And that's kind of when I was like, I figured out like, okay, this is what I am, but big secret. And I remember I managed to come out to a guidance teacher when I was like 16 and said like, I think I might be blah blah, blah, and was taken to a priest right away. And it was never allowed to be. And then I will always kind of bring it back to like the church is like a big indicator, a big probably a big problem for me at that time. And that's what kind of kept me in about it. And I was not that I was a big believer or anything, but you get brainwashed. You get completely like this is what it is. This is what you believe. This is there was no turn away from it. Even though I wasn't a big believer by the time I was 16, 17. Like I wasn't a churchgoer. I wasn't part of the Catholic Church, but all the damage had been done. I'd already believed like okay, I can't be this, whatever it was I was. When I was told by a nun, who had me figured out again before I had me figured out. She said that the Lord God will forgive your impure thoughts, but He will not forgive impure acts. That's what I was told. And I was 15, you know. And I don't know if she was talking about wanking or gay. I don't know what she was talking about, but I kind of had it figured out and I understood. And so repressed. I didn't want it. So it came from a bit of all that, and then self-loathing and all that sort of thing. And it wasn't until it was really after I left uni until I figured out like no. But interestingly, alongside that, drag always put a, I was always in drag in some way or another. I was always like, and I was always dressing up. Halloween was always the kind of ample time for it. In secret, I'm sure other gay boys out there will definitely recognize putting the t-shirt on your head and that was your hair up little up to it. Absolutely, we all did it. And and yeah, so it was always there, and then it kind of came out more when I moved to Spain from Scotland, when I was able to kind of go like basically start again in a
Mm.
new place, new environment, new people, and just be the exactly who I should have been the whole time, but didn't let myself be that way.
Yeah, because I find that like my dad's side of the family is Irish Catholic, so I have some experience in going to mass, like when we go to Ireland and stuff. We
Mm-hmm.
don't go anymore, but my dad's always hated religion and hated the institution, hated everything like that. Um, but I remember him telling me, and I know some of the people in the area that it happened to, that they told me that if when you were younger they suspected you were gay, you would be sent off to be a priest, to be like converted. And if
Yeah.
you were, and even and on the female side of it, if you happened to be raped or something by, a family member or a cousin,
Oh
you would
yeah.
then be impure, and then they would send you off to be a nun.
Off to the Magdalene
Yeah,
sisters.
exactly.
Yeah,
And then
yeah,
you end up with these, repressed, for men, repressed gay men
yeah.
being trained by priests who may also be repressed gay men. Not all of them. Obviously, there are plenty of priests that go into it just because it's a good job,
Of
really, and they
course.
like it.
Yeah,
But then you do end up with this cycle of abuse
yeah.
and repression and weird kind of sexual energy that's all trapped, and all these poor girls that have been raped through no fault of their own that then end up in there, and it's horrible.
Yeah. No,
It's
it's
really horrible
awful.
thinking about.
And still the repercussions are still being suffered. Especially in Ireland. Jesus, that place.
Yeah,
But the repercussions are still being, like still coming out now, and all the scandals and everything, and it's still there. And it's just that I'm just glad I'm out of it. My mother's still a believer and an attender,
mm,
but I like, we've kind of came to kind of an agreement, like, okay, you do what you want, but I haven't got a real. It's not just like I don't believe it. It's a real, like, it's a vendetta, like a hatred I have for it, because I feel like it robbed me in the first fucking 20 years,
mm,
of me being 100% like, okay, no, it's because now I look at kids now, and it show. I don't know if you've seen the show on the show Heartstopper on
mm.
Netflix. A lot of people have it. Like, basically teenagers, gay teenagers, and I'm like that. How fucking dare you? Like, I'm so jealous of it. At the same time, so delighted that we're out in a world that that's the case. But I feel like these fucking queer teenagers not suffering like the way I suffered. It's so annoying. But yeah, no, I mean, I love it. Of course, it's brilliant that we've come. That we're now at that stage. But I do feel like a tinge of like envy and rage, and it is that. I mean, it's not just the Catholic Church. There was a whole
Yeah, of
fucking
course.
societal shift has happened in the past, like, even between 5 and 10 years. Things have like changed for the better, of course. Um, and and yeah, so but I still look I still look back and feel that the Catholic Church had a major part to play in that for me.
But it's super interesting what you mention about the kind of theatrics of the church, because
Right,
there is a beauty to ceremony. There is a beauty in my opinion, anyway, a beauty to tradition,
right.
ceremony, ritual, and I think it's something that we are drawn towards.
It's camp.
It is
the
very
ro- the
camp, yeah,
royal family camp. It is.
yeah, yeah,
And as a Scottish person, I'm a staunch anti-monarchist, but I love it.
yeah, yeah,
I watch it and I go, oh my god, it's fantastic. Like, it's I watched her funeral, you know, and it was just camp. It's fabulous.
yeah. And
And yeah, there's everyone, and even British people kind of like, we have that. It's in us as well.
mm,
That pageantry and pomp and ceremony. It's just, yeah.
yeah, and like even just dressing people up to the high heavens,
Hmm.
and the what they call the royal guard, where they wear those big red outfits and the
On the
black,
Beefeaters,
the
yeah.
beefeaters, sorry. Like I was watching the Meghan and Harry documentary today, and it's actually
Oh,
really
I've
interesting
not seen
because I
it.
don't really know anything about the royal family, but it's just interesting. It shines a light on partly on some of the ceremony that's involved, but partly on just the paparazzi involvement, and
Mm.
like you cannot imagine how crazy it is without being experienced in it. But then they're explaining it, and you're like, oh my god, like there's people. Imagine having people surrounding your house all the time, trying to
Nice.
take photos through your windows and stuff. And
Wild.
while you're there, but what they said was that when Will and Kate came to visit them, Megan didn't realize that formality and like pageantry actually extends into private life.
Oh yeah,
So
it's all hierarchy.
it's all
It's all
hierarchy, and
yeah.
like, do you know what I mean, even though it's her brother-in-law and her sister-in-law, they're coming over, and she's there, said she was wearing like jeans and no shoes or something, and gave them a hug, and they were just like couldn't handle it
Yeah,
and all
there's
this
no.
stuff, because she thought it would just be like, that's on show, and
Yeah,
then behind closed doors it's normal, but she said it's so ingrained.
of course.
I thought that was so
Wow.
interesting. But you also mentioned about how your family didn't react so well to the coming out. Do you think that the bad reaction is for fear of reprisal from God or from society?
Yeah,
In your mum's case, for example.
great question. It wasn't. I didn't get such a backlash from my mother. She's my number one champion actually. But I think her fear was that I was going to be. Her fear wasn't from God. It was we kind of. At that point we kind of come past that, and then as an adult, like I wasn't that was not what my fear was, or hers from that matter. She was concerned that like I was going to have a harder life.
Yeah, yeah.
That was what her fear was. And I think my dad's was also kind of like that as well. But he had his own kind of like macho shithead hang ups to deal with, which are now thankfully, we've kind of a huge journey with my dad. Um, we spent tumultuous years together. Really really difficult. He actually gave me my original drag name. When I was going through drag names, I thought, okay, this is what I'm going to take. It was Jesse Handbag. So Jesse, I'm sure you know as well, like Jesse in the UK, it was like a slur for a boy who was a bit effeminate, like yeah, we Jesse, and then handbag was what more feminine item can you have, like so my dad christened me Jesse Handbag when I was like 8 years old, and but for me like okay, it's funny, but like for me like that was like the worst thing you could be, like and I didn't realize what Jesse Handbag was, but until I started realizing, I would drink something and have my pinky up and or I'd laugh a certain way and I'd be told stop in a Jesse Handbag. And I was like, oh shit. So the worst thing I could be is a Jesse Handbag. I don't want to be that or her, whatever this character is my dad cultivated for me. And I worked it out that it was whenever I let my guard down and I was myself, that's when I was a Jesse Handbag. And I was like, oh shit. So I was 7, 8 years old working this out and going like, okay, I had to like change myself and like, code myself and I was code switching. Kind of like whenever I was with my dad or around his part of the family, I had to code switch into being not a Jesse Handbag. And then when I was with my mom or other people and people who were like aware of me, I could be back to myself. But whenever my dad was around, I had to code switch into that. Like not hardly butch it up. I've never butched it up in my life, please. But like there was like it was maybe like less, and I tried to kind of stay back from the being a little screaming queen or a little Jessie Handbag. But it was a name that really hurt me for a long time. It was like it was the worst thing I could be. And then my original drag name, I was like, I'm gonna be Jessie Handbag. It's so ridiculous. But then there was a major shift between me and my dad at that point because up until then we hadn't really seen eye to eye. We didn't really much of a relationship. But then when I turned 30, he came to visit me, and when I was living in Andalusia at the time, and I told him about the drag and stuff like that, and wasn't sure how he was going to take it, and loved it. Became an instant fan. He said to me, "Oh, wait, is that what Lily Savage does?" I was like, "Exactly that, exactly Lily Savage." And so, and then he came to see a show, so I could no longer operate as Jessie Handbag, so I had to go to Bonnie Oui Laddie, which for any Scottish person, you'll know it instantly what it means. But Bonnie Oui Laddie is, Bonnie is, handsome or cute. We is the diminutive because I'm, a tiny person. And laddie is, of course, boy. That's what my grandma used to call me, her Bonnie Wee Laddie. So both of
Aw.
my drag names were given to me by a family member, unbeknownst to them, christened. But one was has definitely a more positive light. Because Jessie Handbag was originally a kind of fuck you to my dad kind of thing, like taking the name and like the way that kind of the gay people, most of us, some of us, kind of like rebranded the F slur, the faggot slur. Like I use it, but I feel like it's my word. I can use it. Kind of like the way black people use the N word, I suppose. But so for me, it was like a rebranding of it, and but now I don't use it, and now it's just like okay, we'll go for Bonnie Wee Laddie, and it works better. There's definitely more positivity that comes from it.
Yeah, well, it's a nice play on words, and
Yeah.
it's like I think it's a great name. But I was actually talking. I can't remember. I think it was because Emma went to see the drag show on Wednesday.
Oh yeah.
I couldn't go because I had this other event. But she was saying that someone there was talking about when their dad found they hadn't spoken to their dad for ages, and then their dad added them on Facebook, and then they thought they had to tell their dad, like, by the way, before you add me, like, I'm a
Like cross-dressing
cross-dressing,
alcoholic. Yeah.
like, blah blah blah. And then he said, like, yeah, don't worry, your photos aren't private. I can see that my son's a cross-dressing
Yeah.
gay
Yeah.
boy or something like that, but didn't mind. And then we just got onto the topic of how messed up it is that parents can disown their children
Mhm.
for being, gay, lesbian, whatever. And, like, just how messed up that is, for that to affect someone so much that they would abandon and disown
Yeah.
their child. Like, the psychology of that, like, what is going on? Does it tap into their own repressed sexuality? Maybe is it this fear of rejection from society? Is it the fear that the parent will be rejected, and so they don't want anything to do with the child? Or it's such a shame that they can't believe that they've spawned something like that. Like, it's so.
I think it's just like form of narcissism involved,
Mm,
because like everyone want my mom, like my mom would come up with some things like, oh, I suppose I don't have grandchildren. I'm like, it's not about you. You've had your fucking kids. I know you want the grandchildren for me, that's for sure. But like, I've been very lucky in that sense that I did not experience that kind of rejection,
hmm.
but the fear of it is real.
Yeah,
Like, and
hundred
that's
percent.
why it took me so long to come to terms with it, and like, from first of all, get over my own like self-loathing and get over that, and then for the possibility, because it's always a risk. And I was the possibility that it might happen. That fear was very legitimate, because I have got friends and I do know people who have suffered that, and it's unthinkable, it's unfathomable, it's horrible. And my heart goes out to these people, and that's why a lot of gay kind of families, gay people cultivate their own families, their own their own real home away from homes kind of thing. We've got one here in Barcelona. It's called Pluma.
Oh,
You know about Pluma?
I've heard of it before. It's the
So
refuge, isn't it?
So Pluma is actually a club night.
Mm.
So you know about in Spanish, the phrase tener pluma.
No,
So
so I have to have courage.
no, so pluma literally means
Feather.
feathers,
Hmm.
right? So if you say, like, it's in Spanish, say "Ay, mira, este que tiene pluma," like he's got feathers, it means that he's a bit effeminate, right?
Ah.
Like a peacock, or like you've got feathers, but it's a slur. It's a derogatory. You got to look at this. He's penny pluma, and also in the gay community, being you know really recently up until now, like, be having any kind of like femininity was seen as weak or unattractive. Like
Hmm.
on Grindr, you'll see like zero pluma, or no femmes, no feminine, like
Ah.
that would be like considered unattractive. It's misogyny. It's what it's pure misogyny.
Is it misogyny though?
Oh, it's what do we call it? Internalized homophobia. Where like this kind of idea that the only way to be attractive in the gay community is to have this like masculinity about you.
Oh.
I did my number about that on last weekend, about when I did the
Yeah.
Macho Man number, which
Hmm.
is ridiculous. But also, so sorry, back to that, the club night. So my best friend and mother of Pluma, Joan, and the DJ Big Balls,
Hmm.
we have a club night it's a little bit of promotion, every Friday, every last Friday of every month in Belize. We have a club night called Pluma, and there are a whole horde of Pluma girls and Pluma boys and Pluma trans and everybody. We're all there together, and it's a wonderful kind of like family. And it's started by Joan, who's from London, and it was like a response to that, there not being anything like that here in Barcelona.
So that's specifically for people who are wanting to go and peacock.
Exactly. Yeah, that's a nice way to put it. Yeah, exactly. But again, it's that kind of like the way I talked about rebranding Jessie Handbag, or
Hmm.
rebranding the word faggot, rebranding the word pluma, because it has these negative connotations of being effeminate, weak, feminine. Whereas now,
Ah.
like, all of these things are actually powerful, and all the things that what it's really taught me is like all the things that I used to hate about myself, like being Jessie Handbag, being feminine, being a little poof, is now so empowering. It's exactly what people love about me,
Yeah.
and what people think is special about me, and that's really empowering, because it took me a long time to get to a stage where I didn't hate that. Even as recently as, like, 6 or 7 years ago, before I did drag,
Hmm.
um, whenever if I go on a date or something, I'd always try and like butch up or like, again it's code switch, not be Jesse handbag and be that kind of like the way I would be when I was 8 years old when I was around my father. It was just mental, and as recently as like 25 years old,
That's
um.
so. That's so. I never realized that even within the gay community, you have that sort of
No
discrimination.
one hates gays more than gays hate gays.
Right.
Yeah, that's insane.
Because I did know that there's a lot of um, judgment goes on, and people are especially judgmental of each other. That's from what I've heard from gay friends, that
Mm.
people are incredibly mean to each other.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to paint the gay community as this horrible, toxic place. There's actually a lot of love and warming and growth is happening as well. But because we've got so many subcategories of gay, um, I won't go through them all. But there's a lot of infighting, and when I say subcategories of gay, I mean subcategories of LGBTQ plus blah 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 blah,
Mm-hmm.
the whole alphabet. And there's a lot of kind of infighting and microaggressions going on all over the place. Whereas I really believe that while we are making strides to be more inclusive across the board, there is one we're still under threat. It's not, the fight isn't done. There's a few weeks ago, a guy in Colorado walked into a gay bar and shot and killed 5 people and maimed another 20. Just walked into it, walked into a drag show and started shooting up. Like, I mean, like that happened weeks ago. So I think like if there's this infighting of like he's too femme, she's trans, I'm transphobic, blah 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 blah, or you misgendered me, and I'm like, hold on a minute, like, can we deal with these guys first? They're coming in and shooting people,
Yeah.
like that. I feel like there's a lot of infighting, and I understand that. That's definitely another podcast on that. But like, I feel like there's a lot of infighting within the community. But yeah, back to the kind of main thing about the mask for mask, plumophobia, that kind of like fear. Yeah, it's very real.
I did find it very interesting that there's like you said about the categorization, and that I don't think that, well, not that I can think of, exists in the straight community of kind of
Right.
bear, cub,
Yeah.
all that
All
type
right.
of
Yeah.
different categories where it's like
Well,
you're put into a sort of category and that's the category you are and all that. I
but
think
that kind of that's more of the categories of like sexual preference.
right.
About like, yeah, like that kind of comes more down to that. I was referring to like lesbian, bi, trans,
Oh,
all that
right, right.
umbrella, that kind of category. But yeah, you are right. There's even more subcategories below that as well. Jesus, yeah, no, we're a very clicky group.
What do you think I would be? What would be my category?
Um, you're quite tall, so you could, and you work out. Yeah, you could probably be like kind of a jock category. 'Cause you're quite fit. I don't know if you're hairy or not.
No, I'm not very hairy.
No, because like with your size, if you're a bit more hairy, you could maybe be a muscle bear.
A muscle bear. Oh,
Maybe,
I like the
yeah.
sound of that.
Yeah.
Need to get some more hair. Um, yeah, it's all, it's crazy that there's fighting going on within. It's like you say, like sort out the real big
Mm.
problems
Although,
first,
although
and
what I will say though, especially about like like the plumophobia and all this kind of thing, yeah, I feel like it's actually getting better, and I think shows like RuPaul's Drag Race have actually done a lot of good. It's done a lot of problems as well, and kind of made things a bit more difficult. But we'll come to that in a moment. I think first and foremost, it's done a lot of good because what it has done is it's humanized drag queens. For a long time, 10 years ago, drag queens. Even I, but before I did drag, and I always saw drag queens before I saw them on TV as these like underground, like maybe unable to separate drag from trans and drag from cross dressing and whatever, or transvestism. But now, like what Drag Race has done is kind of given these, you've seen, 75% of the show is them out of drag talking about their lives. So you kind of see the real person behind the mask and the paint and the wigs and all that sort of thing, and you get like a real story or an edited version of a real story for TV. But it's still this kind of like humanizing them. It's made drag cool. It's made it more mainstream. I don't know how long this wave's going to last for, but I'm definitely ride it as much as I can, because people want to see it. Straight people want to see it. Everyone, it's people are enjoying it and getting to see the art form behind it, and it's not
Mhm.
just some like some bloke in a dress doing blankety blank like it used to be with Billy Savage, you know?
Well, that's exactly what I was about to say. It is just an art form.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like you might go to see a comedy show that's stand-up comedy, or you might go to see poetry or spoken word or whatever, and drag is its own thing because it is comedy.
Mm-hmm.
Like usually
It can be, yeah.
there's well, the ones I've seen, it is people kind of they're trying to make the audience laugh anyway. And you know, then you've got the outfits, which are obviously mega extravagant
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes ridiculous, and then you've got like the arse showing or whatever. And
Yeah.
it is, for me anyway. I had my first proper show last week at your show,
Uh-huh.
which was awesome. So it was like a dinner, 4-course dinner with just yourself and another drag queen called Jono, just kind of interacting between each other, making jokes about sexuality and really playing up to the fact that you're men dressed in dresses
Right.
and, well, gay men dressed in dresses, and just it's hilarious, and it is so for a straight person, it is so funny to see because it's almost like a connection to the feminine, because obviously you see a man that's doing that,
Uh-huh.
and it's like it's a connection to this other feminine side of the world, and it it's really, I don't even know how to put it into words. It's something different. It's very different. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I thought it was hilarious, and
I'm glad, yeah. I know, I think it's because I think my dad saw it, like, again, he came to see it again in April there when I did drag brunch, and he was like, he was bowled over by it. He was just like, it's just an entertaining show.
mm,
I mean, people do drag for many different reasons. Me, I'm an entertainer first and foremost. I try to sing. I play sax. I think I'm funny, so I do a bit of comedy, and I can dance a bit. I'm quite flexible. I don't think I can dance well, but I can I can definitely land
yeah,
on the
you could
floor.
do like splits
I
and
don't know. I
stuff.
know a few splits. I
Oh
like
god,
a bit of
when I
pussy
see men
pop.
doing that, I'm just like, oh god, I just think of myself ripping in half.
It's come close a few times. But for me, I'm a performer first, and like
Mm,
drag for me is like kind of lovely vehicle for me to kind of explore it, like kind of I'm not, I would call a jack of all trades. Like, I don't think I'm like amazing at one particular skill, but I can do them all to a relatively well standard.
yeah, yeah.
And then like all these like basically circus acts, drag is the kind of clown car. There's a little metaphor. Drag is
Mm,
a little clown car for me to like show you them all.
yeah,
Because
yeah.
there's not a lot of performative outlets where I can do sing, dance, tell jokes, play the saxophone, and serve you cocktails and food. Like it's a very eclectic experience, and I feel like I'm that kind of person. Like, I've got my fingers in many pies, so to speak,
Yeah.
and I definitely I think drag's a kind of great outlet to do that. And of course, I do enjoy the, like I said, the Catholic Church is a big inspiration. All that pomp and ceremony, all the pageantry of drag that comes into it, the rhinestones, the feathers, all that sort of jazz. Because I've had it drummed into me that so I love it all ultimately. So yeah, but I'm glad that it's not like someone like, you can see that you can use something like you can like appreciate it for what it is, which is a show. It's entertaining.
Yeah, because I don't hang out with them as much anymore. But I had two good friends. They're a couple, like a gay couple, and I'd always be hanging out with them at the weekend. And we sometimes they would put on like RuPaul's or something, and
Hmm.
I never particularly enjoyed RuPaul's because it's more just about the dressing up and walking around the stage or
Right,
a
the
bit of
fashion.
dancing, and
Yeah.
it's like it's not that interesting to me. So I didn't know really what to expect at all from the show. I didn't know it was going to kind of be so interactive and um,
I would say
singing and dancing, and
that's me and Joan though. We have a really nice chemistry.
yeah, you do.
There's a few drag shows that are like that. Like you can go and you go, oh Jesus, when's it over?
Mm,
But no, we support all drag here. But I know what I look for in a drag show. Which might be a bit old fashioned. Then I like to go and be entertained, and you know, costumes are lovely, but the wow of the wow factor of a costume is over in 6 seconds.
yeah,
You see, wow, my God, you look amazing. So what are you going to do for us?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
So like, there's a lot of like new kind of fashion queens who are beautiful, stunning. But as far as I'm concerned, they've won a genetic lottery. Is they happen to look amazing,
mm,
and they paint their faces beautifully, and they have gorgeous clothes, and then it's like, bleh, on the
yeah,
mic.
yeah.
So I like someone to entertain me.
Mm.
That's what I look for in That's what I do for my drag. That's what I look for in my own drag queens. But like I said, it's a wonderful it's a wonderful art form because there are so many different facets to it, and anyone who's not arsed about someone telling a joke or singing a song, but is more interested in the fashion element, then there is something for you, especially in Barcelona. Barcelona is, I, I was going to say saturated, but that's a negative word, is teeming
Yeah.
with drag talent, and there's lots of us, and there's lots going on, all different styles. And there is literally, I hate this phrase, but there's something for everybody.
Mhm.
In the drag scene in Barcelona, it's huge. There's a lot going on.
Yeah. Yeah, Barcelona seems to be a very inclusive city, and the locals just, I think they're so, even myself now, I've become so accustomed to it. There was this guy walking around um, the other day just in this ridiculous outfit. He was basically just following people, like not drag outfit, just some like ridiculous outfit. And he was just basically following people and just irritating them.
All right.
But I was just like, at first I just kind of looked at him, but then I was like filming him for a little bit, and then I was just like, this is just Barcelona. I was like, I'm
Yeah.
so desensitized to it. There's a guy that dresses up as Maleficent, walks around shouting at people, and it's just like this is just the weirs of Black Alien. Have you seen Black Alien?
No.
Oh my god, I've got to get this up. Um, this is Black Alien Project for anyone listening on Facebook, Instagram. Sorry, he's done loads of body modifications because I think that he feels he's an alien.
Oh, I know who you're talking about.
Um,
I have seen his
I haven't
Instagram.
seen him around in ages now because he used to always be in Raval. Um, but then, oh, where is Alien? Maybe he's off. I don't know. I can't find Black Alien.
I think I saw him in Madame Jasmine's once.
Yeah, you probably would have.
Yeah.
Whoa, has he come off?
He's got like black eyes, right? Like is he like dyed his eyeballs
Yeah.
or
This
something?
so this is his fan page. For some reason, I can't find him,
Maybe he's come off of it.
but I think he might have come off
Oh
Instagram.
my god, that's incredible.
Someone might be able
Jesus.
to see that. But yeah, like you just see that walking around. Obviously, I remember I saw him years ago when he wasn't anywhere near that extreme. Like he's chopped off his ears, he's chopped off half of his nose. He's chopped off two of each of his fingers on
Mm-hmm.
each hand. I think he's chopping off his dick at some point, and
Chopping it
like
off.
I think so because on his page it used to say like 30 or 40% evolution, as in no, I think the maximum I saw was about 30 out of 100%, and that's what he looks like at 30%. And he has this whole plan of all the things he wants to do, and all these implants and crazy stuff. But I watched an interview with him, and maybe one day I could get him on the podcast. But um, he said that because he's got no ear, like your ear is basically like a satellite dish,
Yeah.
so it means that then it directs the sound in. So he said that when people talk to him from front, he's hearing sounds from all around. So like he can't distinguish where sounds are coming from.
Wow.
And he said with his nose, when it's cold, because your nose is supposed to warm up the air that goes up your nose, and it's why typically people in colder countries have longer, thinner noses because the air gets warmed up more, and people in hotter countries and more humid countries tend to have shorter, flatter noses
Right.
because it cools down the air as it comes in. But if you chop off half of it, that cold feeling that you get when it's really cold, and you breathe in and it like stings your nose. So when it's cold, he gets that all the time because it's basically hitting the flesh that's on the inside of his nose all the
So
time.
is he? It sounds like he's regretting things, or
I don't think. I
no.
mean, he's moving forwards,
Right, right,
so
right.
that's what I mean. Like I see,
I want to
just
see him make a cup of tea. Like I see whenever I see whenever I see someone like that, I'm like, I want to see you like sit down and watch TV and do something really normal. Because like this is all like really extravagant and really for show.
mm,
Um, it's like the funniest thing I've ever seen is like a drag queen eating lunch really quickly. It's like you're dolled up like ridiculous and you're doing something really mundane. And it's really funny.
yeah. But now it's just so desensitized to all the different people, all in like a relatively small space. People walking around. I think the locals as well are just so desensitized. It's just people are. I feel like much more free here to than you would be in a lot of other places, just because there
Yeah.
is so much going on.
There is, but I tell you what though, I do move around the city in taxis when I'm in drag,
Mm,
just because I've had a few experiences that have made me go, no, I'm not doing it. I've done public transport. If I'm with a group of people, I'll do it, but by myself, I think like because in Barcelona, like you said, there is a lot of people are desensitized to things, but everybody's in Barcelona. Like
true.
you've got people who are like really left wing, really really liberal, really like whatever. and you do have the Vox supporters. They're here as well. You've got everyone in the city. It's a big city and everyone's here. And there has been, well, most recently there's been a lot of like, violent attacks on gay people and trans people in the city, and in Spain in general. Like, I don't know, do you remember last year the young boy who was killed, Samuel? Did you hear about
No,
him?
I don't remember that.
No, he was killed just before Pride last year, or just after Pride. He's like 20 years old or something, and in La Coruña, and just got absolutely attacked by a group of people and killed him. Just wild. Just like so, like I'm very aware of that, and I'm not that I'm scared. I'm just aware. Like Barcelona, you get robbed in Barcelona quite
True.
easily, and the violent crime isn't that common, but it does happen. And when I do read about it, I hear it happens, and it's normally my community that are targeted. So I'm
'Cause-
like, fuck it, I'll spend this 10 hour on a taxi.
yeah.
I'm privileged that I'm able to do that, but I always factor it into the gigs. Whatever I'm making in that gig, whip off 20 quid for the taxi there and back because, I'm just that's not worth it. I'm just not going to and trundle down because of course when I go to my gigs I go with suitcases and wig heads and stuff, so you're really vulnerable anyway. So no, I prefer just to on the safe side because I have had experiences.
Like
Um,
what?
so the kind of worst one that happened was Halloween, which is ridiculous. Halloween, everyone's dressed up. It was Halloween 2019, pre-pandemic. Remember, cast your mind back. And I came out of one of the clubs I was working. I'd been doing a gig in, and I was going to just want to walk up the road. And I was on in Ejambla, like David Tathion with like I don't know, David Tathion with Leo Lorwell or something like that. And I think what happened was, from what I understood, what I understood was the guys maybe thought that I was like a trans prostitute maybe, and they were asking for how much and stuff, and I was like that no, it's not happening, and then the altercation kind of rose a little bit, and they do it to attack me, but luckily under the wig I am a 5'11", big boned Glasgow boy who, if provoked, will go into Glasgow mode, and you don't fuck with it. And I was drunk as well, and I was carrying my shoes in my hand, so a fucking guy got a stiletto to the head. So it's just, but I didn't know that condone violence at all, but like that scared me. Like it was like there was two of them, and I had to. And miraculously, there was a taxi driver nearby and stuff, and it was okay.
But were they asking, trying to solicit your services or trying to solicit a service, genuinely, or they were just like taking the piss sort of thing?
I don't know. I think it might be taking the piss. I think they decided that they were gonna have a go at me, and then because they thought I was a trans prostitute or something, or I don't know. They had worked out that I wasn't a cisgendered woman, and they were gonna have a pop at me, and that's what it was. Whether or not they were actually actively looking for business, I'm not sure, but it didn't. If anyway, luckily it ended in I wasn't hurt or anything, but yeah, and then I've had another few ones, and it can just be something really simple, like someone saying something. It doesn't have to be a physical altercation. Someone saying something or shouting something at you, and you're by yourself is super super scary, and you're really in that moment you realize, fuck, I'm a sitting duck right now, I'm a target. So I just choose not to put myself in those situations now, and which sucks because I should be able to jump on and off metros, in full drag, and like this guy, and no one kind of bats an eyelid, and that does happen to the best times, but like I just don't want to be in a situation where it might not happen.
Yeah, I get you.
So it's still we're still not there yet. It's nice that you've seen it and you've kind of become like desensitized to things, but there are people who are, if anything, seeing that sort of thing just irks them even more, and
True.
it starts it again. So I don't like being negative about it, but it's realistic.
Yeah.
We're not. I love that a lot of people have come to that stage when they're like, "Oh, live and let live, do what you want." I think it's fabulous, and then kind of people ask the question, "No, why do you need pride?" Because everyone agrees with you, everyone's behind you. No, they're not.
Yeah.
Apps on the contrary, there's still a huge fight to happen.
Yeah. It's funny you should mention that because I was actually, like Emma said, the drag show on Wednesday that someone put drag on the host,
Mhm.
and obviously like he's like said, did like all the makeup and everything on him, and he's a gay guy, um, and he is relatively flamboyant in the way he dresses anyway, like relatively femininely. But it just got me to thinking, if I was there, I'd be perfectly happy for someone to put drag on me. I think it'd be funny, and I'd like to see what it looked like. But
You'd
then
be
I was
gorgeous.
thinking, oh, thanks.
Yeah, we can get those cheap ones right out, honey.
But
Sculpt that nose down.
oh yeah. But then I was thinking, would I be comfortable walking home?
Right.
And it's not that far. It's probably about a 7 or 8 minute walk,
Right.
but it's not through a particularly pleasant area. I'd be walking through an area where there are a lot of, which Raval, so it's like there's a lot of unsavory characters there. Would I feel comfortable? Because if I was in, obviously I wouldn't have the wig on if I was walking home, but I would have some probably ridiculous makeup on.
Mhm.
So everyone would be staring. And I'm like, would I feel comfortable doing that?
Mm.
And I probably would do it because I'd be curious to see the reactions. But would I feel comfortable? Probably not.
There would be a vulnerability to come over
Is
you,
a vulnerability.
and guess what? You'd probably be absolutely fine,
I probably
and
would
you
be
know, you'd be
fine.
absolutely grand because again, you're a big lad as well, so
Yeah.
you'd be grand. But there's still that what if,
Yeah.
and we need to get rid of. I want love to get rid of that. That scary what if. Still not there,
Because I've even like I I've sort of changed the way I dress relatively recently
Oh
as well
yeah.
because I used to peacock. I used to always like wearing, really patterny, colourful clothes and shirts and all that type of thing. And I don't know, I like them. I think they look visually nice.
Mm-hmm.
Like the classic kind of like flowery, patterny, summery
Okay.
shirts and
Yes.
stuff. Those, and I used to always go to brunch electronic on the mountain, and then I'd like soak my shirt through with sweat, and then there'd always be these vintage shirts, and I'd buy another one while I was there. And I used to like wearing all that type of clothes, but then I sort of realized, like, once I got in a relationship, I was like, do I need to be peacocking? Because ultimately, I suppose that's what it is. You're trying to express some part of your personality through the clothes, but you are drawing attention to yourself. And I'm like, do I want to carry on drawing attention to myself in an area that's not
So you were only wearing these clothes in order to attract.
I don't know. I like the way they look visually.
That's it. So it's you. I
Um,
want to see you back in these clothes, please.
yeah, that's what my mum says. But
Because
then I
like,
do also like wearing just plain clothes. But I
right.
think part of it came down to I want to stop trying to express myself through clothes
Uh,
and learn to express myself just plain. Like my mum kept saying to me when she saw some of my videos performing, I was, it was summer anyway, so I have like 3 pairs of sports shorts which I wear all summer, and that's it. I just rotate those, and then rotate my t-shirts, and so I'd always be on stage wearing just black sports shorts and a black t-shirt basically. And my mum's like, "Oh, why are you always wearing black on stage? Like, wear some trousers, put something nice on." I'm like, "Yeah, but I want to be comfortable getting on a stage looking like shit, but
okay.
comfortable with that because then it means that you can never be caught short."
Hmm.
And I don't know. It is also, I remember, I think it was a job interview or something like that, or someone saying that, you should always dress up for work and put a suit on for work because then, you feel like if you dress like you're the shit, then you'll be the shit and all that. And I'm like, I don't really think that's the right message to be given in a work situation because then it's like, what happens in the rest of your life when you're not wearing a suit? Are you not the shit then because you're not
Yeah.
wearing a suit?
But I think no, I think what clothes do is they definitely empower. They definitely add to it.
Mm,
And like I don't think if I I'm still Bonnie Oui Laddie out of drag.
yeah,
Like I
yeah.
can still turn that character on immediately. But the clothes definitely help.
Mm-hmm.
The wigs and the makeup, because the same with makeup as well. Like all these things are do it in order to empower. So I hate this phrase, but RuPaul says that you're born naked and the rest is drag.
Yeah.
So you ever heard that before?
No, I don't
Yeah,
think so, but I like it.
It's one of RuPaul's classic phrases. He says you're born naked and the rest is drag. So like everything that you put on, everything you choose to put on, you choose is you're even if it's your black sports shorts and your black t-shirt, you're wanting to be comfortable. Okay, but it's also projecting this maybe idea that like you don't really give a shit, which is maybe something that you want to project. Even like, so you do give a shit. So there's like I do think clothing and what you put on yourself does matter, and it does something to you.
Mm.
I know for a fact that yes, I can turn on and off Bonnie whenever I want to, but when I've got that makeup on, I become her in the clothes and the wigs and that sort of thing. So I think it's really interesting about clothing for yourself, but I see clothing definitely what I'm wearing right now. Like I'm kind of giving you British chav. um, but again, kind of code switching.
Mm.
I come in looking not entirely masculine, but like it would be interesting. It wouldn't be very John JG to walk in like with a full drag on.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I think everyone I've got onto I've chosen purposefully. You know.
But one thing I also, part of the peacocking, and again, this is probably just me overthinking things because I do have a tendency for that. But part of it as well with like the fancy, colorful shirts and everything, I felt almost like, um, as I'm living in a poor area, Raval's relatively poor.
Mm.
There's a lot of, there is a lot of very poor people there, a lot of immigrants and everything, and I almost felt like I'm just giving off this kind of, oh, look at me, I'm strutting around here with my money and my like flashy shirt and stuff. And I almost felt like I felt like I wanted to just be able to blend in more, to not separate myself from people in that sense. And
Why do you want to blend in?
well, it's not that I don't want to blend in, it's
Yeah,
that
I
I
don't
don't,
see you as a person who blends in at all.
but
Like,
it's more the sense that I don't want to put my privilege on show.
right,
That's
okay.
it. It's not that. So it's like
What are you out there
I'm.
wearing Versace? Like,
No, I wasn't. But in the case of these like very fancy shirts, they're not expensive. 15 euros, but they
okay,
look flashy
right.
because they're really colorful and really, um, like. And one of the shirts I've got I really love is, the typical African shirts that have got the two pockets there, and they tend to have, like they might be like various different colors and they have all the different patterns all over
Oh,
them. Do you know
okay.
the ones I mean?
Yeah,
Got one of
yeah.
those and I love it. And when I wear it, African people are always like, "Oh man, I love your shirt," and like I like wearing that. But then I also feel like I'm parading around, like, I don't know. It makes me feel odd also wearing it. I wouldn't feel odd like that if I was in England doing it.
Huh.
But for some reason, I started feeling odd doing it around here, and I thought, do I want to be doing this?
Just in your little zone. What if you're up in Jean or somewhere different or in Bourne? Just in Reval, you feel like that, or just across?
I don't know.
Oh no, I think you should definitely wear whatever the fuck you want, babes, because and it's because I think clothing is definitely is really really important, and it really does you can express a lot through it. You said you can express yourself just by being plain, but then that you're expressing that then, like if you want your clothing and whatever you put on your body, it does matter. I mean, in my opinion, and I think like we can say it doesn't have to be you don't have to be expensive stuff. You have to be walking about in Gucci, but like you should, there's a pride in your appearance. Take like having like, and that can be if your hair's done or if you wear makeup or whatever. Like it definitely it does matter, and that for me definitely out of drag and in drag it matters.
Hmm.
I really want to be presenting that because you're a whole package, right? So the gift wrapping should be nice. I feel.
Yeah, and it's something that's been playing on my mind a lot recently, and I always talk about Emma with it because, like, for example, I shaved my head, I've grown it back now, but I had it shaved for, I don't know, like 18 months or something, and I love having it shaved.
Hmm.
It's no hassle, and I just I I think I've been so obsessed, and I used to be overweight, and I hated it
Right.
so much, and so much of my focus was looking at myself in the mirror and hating myself for like most of my life.
Oh, honey, a piece to
So
the choir here.
yeah,
Yeah.
so then I was like, do you know what? Fuck this. I want to stop putting emphasis on my appearance. Just wear comfortable clothes
Right.
and get used to just being me.
Okay.
Get used to just accepting,
And how do you feel about yourself
no
now?
bells and whistles, shave my head, wear plain clothes, no bells and whistles, and get used to that. And then after, once I'm comfortable with that, then you can start adding little embellishments and taking back some of the things you used to do.
So like stripping back and finding yourself happy with yourself and then decorating.
Exactly. And that's what I've tried to do in
Okay.
every aspect of my life, fitness, diet, sleep, relationships, everything, just strip everything to the core
Mm-hmm.
and then slowly add tiny little bits of things back. And I don't know,
Dragging it up.
dragging it up.
Yeah.
Exactly. And
Decoration.
at some point, I could totally see myself try and drag just for the sake of it, just because I think it's a useful way for people to explore another part of their personality.
Well, that's and again, I'm not RuPaul's fucking therapist here, but
Yeah, you are.
I have all of our quotes. She also says that drag doesn't change who you are; it reveals who you are, and I think that's true as well. I think that Bonnie's definitely an extension of me, and inspired by all the women in my life and men in my life as well. But drag definitely like it shows you something you may not have known about yourself. And that what that might be is that, oh, I really like wearing women's underwear, but who knew? But it can be something just it's a really empowering thing. Let's do it. I think we should. I want to get you in full drag, if we full beat.
Yeah, we can do it.
It'd be stunning.
But it's something I've been really putting a lot of thought into, and it's something I'm going to be studying a bit more, is just the role of masculine and feminine within all of us.
Right.
You know, because whether people like it or not, the terms masculine and feminine exist. And I think that really masculine traits and feminine traits tend to be related to the masculine and feminine sex hormones. You know, because there are certain traits that come from higher or lower levels of certain hormones, and certain traits which come from higher or lower levels of this. So what I'm saying is that everybody within them, you might have someone who is physically a male, but they might be really feminine, so they might have 90% feminine energy, let's call it 10% masculine, or you might have the reverse, and you have everybody that's all totally mixed around, and everybody has different parts of masculine, different parts of feminine. And I think that it's so important for everybody to explore the non-dominant side for them. There might be some people that are 50-50.
Well, you touched on something very important, and it does kind of encompass the whole trans issue, and then the whole in all of these things about like masculine femininity, in terms of like you're talking about science and estrogen and testosterone. That's the science of it, okay? But talking about like traits and what's expected of you, that is entirely learned behavior. Gender is a construct. It's not real. It's something, the idea of what if you have if a baby was born, and it was a baby boy or a baby man with a baby male was born, and we put it in a padded cell for the first 18 years of its life, it wouldn't know what masculine traits are or feminine traits are, because they're completely society constructs.
I'm not sure if that's true.
No,
I'm not sure if I'd agree with that, because
so you think the baby boy would not naturally gravitate towards the color blue, for example?
in terms of colors, that's something constructed. But in terms of interests, I think that they are more likely to be. Even if you took someone away, they would end up more likely to be gravitating towards certain careers, for example. And like an example of what I'm saying at the moment is Sweden is considered to be a very equal society with very equal opportunity. And the more equal you make a society, the more divided jobs are. For example, the biggest difference measurable between males and females is that men tend to be more interested in things and women tend to be more interested in people. So when you drag that out to the extremes, you get, if you're extremely interested in things, what do you become? An engineer. And if you're extremely interested in people, what do you become? A therapist, a nurse, a teacher, for example. And when you look at those professions, overwhelmingly, engineers are men, overwhelmingly teachers, therapists, and what's the thing I mentioned? Nurses are female. And that's actually, it's actually, the more equal the society, the more option, the more choice that people have to choose whatever they want, they naturally will gravitate to that.
But then there are millions of female engineers and millions of male teachers. I'm a male teacher,
of course,
and I would be someone who goes against that entire theory.
Of course, no, but that a theory doesn't mean that everyone.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that. Of course, it's not. But it's on the whole. That's the theory. That on the whole, people will naturally gravitate towards those, and I would think that that's more likely to be because of hormones inside of us, hormones and genetics, and obviously environment then plays into it. You have
I think
So
environment plays more than we think it does.
our environment has a huge impact for, turning on genes that might already be present and shaping where you are. For example, I've got two older sisters, so I'm always been very comfortable around women,
Mm.
and maybe even more so than around men. I've just been like fine, but maybe if I had two older brothers, I would be not comfortable around women at all.
Right.
So of course it plays into it there, but I think that your interests are are very set pretty early on. Like I can look at like my nieces and nephews, and you see like my nephew is obsessed with trains
Yeah.
and cars and things with wheels, and then you get the my two nieces who love playing houses and
Right.
dolls and families, and that's not something they're told to do because that's before they even go to school, really.
Mm. I don't know if I agree with that. I think that's the toys they're given.
Mm,
Maybe the toys they've chosen as well. But like, think about how many dolls are available for boys to choose. How many? I mean, like, if they go into Toys R Us or anything, the boys section is very quite clearly marked, and the girls section is quite clearly marked. It's like all these things are constructed for us. They're given to us because that's what gender is. So boys play with cars, girls play with dolls. Like, so that's how it happens. It's not your nephews have not gone like, I like cars, so I want cars. Your nephew's been saying, here are your options for toys, and that's how it happened. I got the same options, and I was like, I want to play with a Barbie.
mm, I'm, I don't know. I think that it definitely is partly constructed, and obviously the choices are already there.
Hmm.
But I think an innate in you know an innate interest. If my 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 sister's family, they're pretty open. And my sister is a teacher, and I expect like specifically a teacher of people with learning
Hmm.
difficulties, and so she's very well versed on teaching methods and
Yeah.
kids and everything. And I think that
Also, like, if your nephew decided he wanted to play with dolls, it wouldn't be a problem then.
that's what I mean. And
Yeah,
he and
yeah,
he
yeah,
has and he has access to dolls
yeah.
because of
Uh
his
huh.
older sisters.
Right. Hmm.
And like for example, they'll dress him up in like girl like little girl costumes, which is what obviously the girls like to do. They like to dress them up, and like probably the same thing happened to me, I'm sure. Um, but ultimately, he still loves things with wheels, and that's
Hmm.
just one example. But that this is the theory anyway, and it's just something that I'm so interested with it in the moment. Is just it stems from thousands of years ago, yin and yang, masculine, feminine, and you look at all different ancient traditions, and they've always got this balance, light and dark, masculine, feminine, of these energies inside of us.
Hmm.
And you know, one side of it is you need to be able to integrate both sides of them, because if
But
you're too masculine, you've got no.
but that's the thing. I think there's a lot of people who feel that like embracing the other is going to negate the other. Like these macho men who don't want to do anything that's seen as traditionally feminine, like be with people or choose a career that's more social, or even like you know shed a tear or show any kind of vulnerability 'cause that's considered feminine because they're going to lose some part of their masculinity. It's just
Yeah,
nonsense.
it is
I
nonsense.
I put on a dress and twirl about and be alright. Like a complete clown most weekends, but it doesn't take away any of my masculinity. And well, is that the question? Was probably for another podcast. Like, what is masculinity? What is femininity? Like how do we define that?
Yeah,
And because like I out of drag, I identify as a cisgendered male. Like I'm a gay, but I identify in the body I was assigned at birth. So, but I have all these like masculine traits as well, but I'm interspersed with my femininity. Like I think I'm a really like well-rounded person that way.
yeah, yeah.
Um, but like me doing drag, or indeed me being like a man and doing my masculine things doesn't negate from Bonnie's femininity. Do you know what I mean? Like it doesn't. I don't think one cancels out the other, which I think is what a lot of people are frightened of.
Yeah, and I just think that there's another theory as well. I can't remember, I read it before, that the closer you can get to the center, basically androgyny, where is a mixture of masculine and feminine.
Right.
The closer you can get to there, or people that are naturally closer to that, are more intelligent, and it's like it kind of
I'll
makes
take that.
sense. Yeah, it kind of makes sense because it's like if you've got both of these sides really well integrated in you,
Yeah.
it is a whole new aspect of personality because you could have the most feminine person ever,
Mhm.
and they would be great at doing things that are suited for that personality, but then they would probably be terrible at doing opposite things, and vice versa. You know, really masculine person is unlikely to be good at empathy naturally. They can obviously learn things like that and conversation,
Mhm.
and it even stems back to something I read, which is pretty interesting, that women women were the first ones to develop communication because they needed it. Because typically the men would go out and hunt, they would have to basically be really silent for ages while they're stalking prey, lying there trying to hunt, doing whatever. The women would be back home trying to plan things, organize things, arrange things, teach everything like that. And so it was actually women that developed language in the first place, and that's why women ended up being better at communicating, and men like stereotypically are bad at communicating
Wait,
because
but,
it stemmed from something that's
but again, that was environment did that.
yeah.
That wasn't, they weren't born and going, I'm a communicator and I'm not. Like that was environment that did that. Like
Mm,
they had to go and be silent and be out when they're hunting or whatever, and the women had to do that. So it wasn't like a case of like they were born into that ability. They had to. So again, that's definitely an environment that caused that.
yeah, super interesting. I find the whole personality, gender, sexuality, like all of those things so interesting
Mm-hmm.
because, like, for example, I'm a man, cisgender, heterosexual, but I'm way more interested in people than I am in things. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm like the opposite way. So I suppose I'm more of a feminine man in that
Feminine
sense,
quality, or
a
or
feminine
traditional
quality.
feminine quality
So
there.
then
Yeah.
sometimes I think that, like, as I always felt more comfortable around women, that I should probably learn to get more comfortable around men and learn to embrace more of the masculine traits,
Mm-hmm.
because I suppose the feminine ones came easier, like being emotional and communicative and everything like that. Then learn to embrace the masculine, the kind of
Mm-hmm.
the more like orderly side of me. And yeah, but I suppose it's super interesting, and I'm really interested to learn so much more about it. Like I went to see, I don't know if you know K Tempest.
No, I think so.
So
Well.
K Tempest, I only actually found out about they the other like a couple of months ago, because they are a spoken word poet
Mm-hmm.
turned performer turned. It's absolutely epic. The concept was in Apollo, and basically K Tempest was originally Kate Tempest, female, trans into male, but now identifies as they. So it's the first person that I'd seen that I know of that now uses the pronoun they.
Okay.
And I was actually right on the front, the stage, listening to their music. And when because I've been really interested in visually looking at people, visually to try and see how masculine and feminine play out in people's appearance, the
Mm-hmm.
natural appearance. There are certain characteristics which are masculine, like the strong
Yeah.
jawline and everything, and there are certain characteristics which are more feminine. And when I looked at Kay, it just made so much sense to be called they and them because I
Right.
saw so many. It was like I was seeing male, female, young, old, and just all these different personalities in the same face. And I was like, it just, I was like, what? This makes total sense.
Okay.
Because it's very difficult without having any direct interaction or understanding. I've been really eager to learn and understand the new pronoun situation because
Mm-hmm.
it's complicated and it's confusing from a
Yeah.
distance.
Yeah.
How a person can want to be called they and them
Mm-hmm.
is a confusing concept.
I know. And I
And
think we have to give a kind of, an there's a bit of understanding and a bit of like kind of leeway to, people getting on board with it.
yeah,
Unless you're going to reject it and be rude about it, but like there's going to be slip ups, there's going to be mistakes, and I think that the community are, very, very welcome of people who are trying, people making an effort is important. People disregarding it is what we're having issues with.
Because I think that one of the things is that most people are not assholes, and like most people, they're just not.
Mm-hmm.
There are assholes everywhere. People are ignorant through no fault of their own, really.
Right.
And including myself, like I try to educate myself the best I can, try to wrap my head around things, but sometimes I need someone to explain to me, this is like this because A, B, C, D, E. I need a little bit of science behind it. I need to be able to wrap my head around the emotional side of it, as well as the actual logic and the high. Because if not, I can't get it. I don't get it. It does not compute. So like, it's really important, because if you just start saying to people, right, you need to call me this, I'm called this, I'm called that, people are like, what? I don't get it. And there needs to be some sort of explanation and patience and all these type of things, which I'm sure there is.
There's plenty of that, and there's lots to be read up on. But I think in general, if someone wants to be called something, just respect them and do your best to do that for them. This person will be going on a journey themselves and their self-discovery, and like I said, people are now starting to realize that this is nothing new. That what's happening now is not new. There's just terminology for it now. There was never terminology for it in the past. You were just a weirdo or a freak or gay, or even people would go as far as saying they were trans, and I was like there was not. Now there's terminology for it. Now we have non-binary, gender fluid. We have all these things for it now. So, like, great. It's just people getting bogged down with the jargon and freaked out by it. But that's nothing new. It's been existed for time memorial.
Yeah, but for me, it's about really understanding that person. Like, for example, them and they, that's plural. So that person must obviously really strongly feel multiple pulls.
No, you can use they in the singular. For example, yesterday I found a wallet in the street, but I don't know who it belongs to.
Yeah, it's theirs.
So I'm going to when there's a name on the card, I'm going to phone that card, see if they answer it. You can use that in the singular. It was used Old English. It was used in the singular. Yeah.
True.
And I think it's really interesting this idea of pronouns as well, because it's actually it's a very linguistic thing, because there's a lot of languages that don't actually use pronouns at all. Turkish, for example, German uses 3 pronouns.
Yeah.
And English has, but not all languages use pronouns. So I think it's a very kind of like Anglo-centric ideology. Spain's catching up as well. Spain have got more inclusive language.
Yeah, using like the LXS.
Yeah, and the todes. And
Yeah.
AEs, yeah. But it's just language evolves. The languages it for the past 20 or 30 years of your life has existed like that for that time. But like it's 30 years before that, there was differences and changes, and the Oxford Dictionary adds new words in every month. It's always expanding. It's always because apart from being a drag queen, I'm also a linguist. I'm an English teacher, but my background's in linguistics, so I'm very interested in that sort of thing, and it's totally normal that the language does evolve again, and maybe we're in this kind of like new time in history where we're going to see another evolution, which is fabulous.
Yeah, and I'm all for that. It just got me thinking about how maybe I suppose I'd have to hear Kay's perspective on it, but it just got me to thinking that if you were to transition from one sex to the other, you would have, because in one of their songs, they mentioned about just like the little girl being there, the little girl that they were, and now the boy that they are, and all this, and then it just got me to thinking that you would strongly have 2 people inside of you, really, because that old person would still be there. And that can happen for many people. Many people go through a rebirth, a spiritual rebirth, where the old you dies and the new one comes. But I understood from being called they and them that it was more because of the duality inside.
I don't think so.
But maybe I could be totally wrong.
I'm not a trans person, but I don't or a non-binary. I don't think so, because I think that the idea behind it is that, like, that person who they were, all its changes, that all its changed here, and there's been a name change and a pronoun change. They were always, like, the trans masculine person. That little girl who was born a little girl was always, man. But
Yeah.
but then it took a name change and a societal shift for it to kind of be. I don't think that it was like, okay, that person stopped living and then there's a new person has now emerged. That person is still that person. I don't. I mean, I'm sure everyone's got a sense of duality to them. I mean, look at Bonnie
Yeah.
Oui Laddie.
Mhm.
But like everyone's got a Jekyll and Hyde sort of thing. But I don't think that's what's happening with trans people. I think it's like they were always that person, and now they're being able to live life as that person, with that name, with that, like, the way society sees them, the way they've always seen themselves. Now that's what they want, and that's how I think. I think it's a nice idea what you're saying, and I get, and again, I get you're trying to, like, um place that logic into it. But sometimes we just have to go, great, do it for yourself, and
Mhm.
and I'm behind you, and I'll try my hardest to be by your side, or to, if especially if someone who you know and you love and you're friends with, but anybody,
Yeah.
just. But I think it's definitely, this person is now being able to be seen by society the way they've always seen themselves, when they've always wanted to be seen.
Yeah. And I am totally behind it, and I think that for anyone to be able to feel comfortable in themselves is a beautiful thing and should be encouraged always. Um, I suppose I'm interested in the psychology. I'm
Yeah.
interested in, like, in I'm trying to empathize, but obviously sometimes you can't.
No.
I want, like, I do it with, like, serial killers. I try and empathize and I try and put myself, like, how would they be thinking? How would they
Yeah.
be feeling about this? Like, what is going through their head when they're doing it? And sometimes you just can't.
No.
And but that's why I suppose that it's good to, I suppose I'll have to get a trans person on to talk and then explain.
Definitely, I can give you what I know from my wonderful trans people in my life.
Mm,
I'm not trans, but or non-binary, but I know, I know just from being around them what it is they talk about. But definitely, you need a trans person on to really have this conversation, because they can definitely enlighten you, for
yeah,
sure, for
because I know
sure.
a few trans people, but then, and I spoke to one of them, but it was quite a few years ago now, and I think it was relatively fresh, and
Mm.
so she hadn't properly transitioned. She was living as a woman at first
Right.
to see, like, to, I don't know, break into it, I suppose. So, like, I felt like it was probably a bit too fresh for me to start grilling her about it, but maybe now's the time.
Mhm.
Um, so let's move on to when you mentioned to me that there was then some, because I asked you what happened. You, like, did any of your students, when you were teaching, because now you're a teacher trainer,
Right.
but you mentioned that when you were a teacher, some of your
Yes.
students found out, and
Right.
that caused some repercussions.
Okay, so I used to be like a high school teacher, and my students always kind of worked out that I was gay, because
Mm.
I've never hidden it, but I kept the drag thing relatively secret, because Catholic schools, the Catholic Church came into my life again. But yeah, I kept it relatively, didn't really talk about it, and also because it was a Catholic, um, private school, so it might have caused dismissal or anything like that. So
That was here, isn't
it
it?
was here,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
and in Andalusia when I was there as well. But this one in particular was particularly posh, particularly
Okay.
peaceful, particularly that kind of person. And it was actually, I taught them before, and then they'd left school already, and then this girl and her friend were in the bar and recognized me, like, oh my God, you're JG, and I was like, oh fuck. And then it just so happened that, like, she also had a sister who was still at the school,
Uh,
and then it all trickled down, and of course everyone knew. Now, nothing. I didn't get fired or anything like that, but there was definitely a sense that the kids were fine. The kids were brilliant about it. Teens had no issues. They thought it was fab.
mhm.
But there been a few kind of stern parents had voiced I don't know what they said. I was never told, but I heard that there was parents who were not happy about it. And this was the pandemic had just hit in at this point. It was just all kind of like happened at once. And in the school that I was working in, um, I I kind of stopped working there, and because I was working with I won't say the names, but I was in another kind of international a language academy that had affiliations with high schools, you know. And I was working more with them, and then during the pandemic, what happened? That actual academy ended up falling apart. Everyone knows who it is. And I ended up seeing this as a perfect opportunity to just get out. So
Mm-hmm.
I got out and started and went freelance and started doing it myself because I figured I'm gonna have to go back to this school eventually when we're all opened up again. I'm gonna have to go back and face this, and I don't want to. So I was like, I just don't. I'm not interested. So I felt it was kind of perfect time, and I was also in this kind of during the pandemic. I was feeling like I wanted to come away from teaching entirely because I was like, I was not starting. I'm starting to become uninspired. I didn't really enjoy it anymore. Um, Especially all the online teaching. I couldn't be arsed. And then this opportunity presented itself in September, where I'm now working with this fabulous college where I'm teaching new teachers. So it's great. Yeah, I get kind of like it reignited a passion there for me as well. And you were there last weekend. The Christmas night out was last
Yeah.
weekend, and the whole staff came, and they absolutely loved it. They were obsessing over it until Thursday this week, and they want to come to the next one.
Yeah.
So that was really nice. Like to
Mm-hmm.
be now in a situation where I didn't have to hide it because it was very secretive before, but
Mm-hmm.
now I'm in a situation where like not only do they know about it, they come celebrate it, love it, promote it. So that's great.
Yeah, it's just funny that you can like mess with them a bit as well. Like I don't know if it was you or Jonah that was like the boss of it or
Oh
something
yeah,
that he was like messing with. It was really funny.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, and you mentioned to me as well that this year, I think it's this year anyway, that there's been some pretty wild events that this year has been a big year of growth for you.
definitely.
So do you want to talk about some of the big
Sure.
things that have happened this year?
Well, yeah, I kind of like I'm the geary queen here. There's plenty of it, but I was really lucky last year to get a gig where I was doing the Mr. Rubber Spain, it's like a fetish competition to find the Mr. Rubber, like Miss
Mm-hmm.
America, Mr. Rubber, Mr. Fetish. So I did this last year, and I was like, this is ridiculous. I was just happened to know someone who was involved in that world, and I got involved, did it, had a fabulous time, and lo and behold, there was one of the kind of big Spanish porn studios, gay porn studios were there, and took a shine to me, and I've been working with them ever since. Now I'm not doing porn, chill out. I am in a few movies, but I'm in the parts where like you skip until you get to the good stuff. I'm like the comic relief at the beginning or the end. It's just ridiculous. It's so much fun. And then I ended up going
So
to
what you like introduce them or
so I'll play like a role, like
oh
like a non-sexual, stupid, like dumb, just a dumb part. Like it's just, like I did like the Squid Game.
mm,
So I did like a role in that where I was like the little doll that turns around and shoots them.
I haven't seen it, but
I
I
haven't
just
seen
I
it. Well, everyone
know
who does see it, I did that. It was
as
freaking
Bonnie Oui Laddie.
as Bonnie We Laddie.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then in April this year, I went to the Grabbies, which is like the Oscars of gay porn, and I was like performing at that. And then from there, I ended up in Berlin, hosting the Hustler Ball in the Kit Kat Club, and the Kit Kat Club is just wow, it's Sodom and Gomorrah, but it's fabulous. And yeah, so since then, just like lots of different opportunities have came up working in the porn industry, which I did not expect. And for that very reason, I'm really glad that I don't teach kids anymore. Just because I feel like that just position is a little bit too much for them to handle. That's
Yeah.
what.
Yeah, I wonder if they found out about that. I wonder if that would be sackable. Uh,
I could imagine it would be. Because there's some of the videos that I'm involved in, although it's non-sexual and I'm not there. I don't want people around me are definitely. So it's a bit much. But yeah, so that's kind of where I am now. Involved in this mad world. I've applied for the Spanish Drag Race a few times,
mm-hmm.
and got quite nice feedback from them. And I'll try again for season 4, see what happens. Um, and
What about like UK ones and stuff? Is there one?
I auditioned for the UK one for season 2 and 3, but then it's really interesting because Bonnie Oui Laddie was born in Spain. Like like her the roots are Scottish, of course, and the references are Scottish. But like she was born in Spain in 2016. So I see I would have more success in the Spanish franchise because of how different I am. You know,
Yeah, true.
they here, whereas opposed to like in Spain in the UK, there's quite a lot of me.
True, 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 true.
But yeah, and then I recently got confirmed that I'm going to be performing at the Ziget Festival in Hungary, Budapest, next summer.
Oh, is that the one that's on like a little island in the
That's the
river?
one. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah, yeah,
cool.
yeah. So I went there like 2009. The Prodigy were playing. That's how long ago it was. And it was fantastic. It's like a you ever been to Glastonbury? Like that vibe.
No,
It's like
sadly
that
not.
vibe. It's like that vibe. It's really really cool.
But the
And
island's not that big, is it? Because
no, it's not that big, but it's big enough to host to host a big festival. And
yeah.
there's like a main stage and a few little side stages. I'm going to be hosting some drag brunches there over the course of the festival, and we're also going to be performing this like queer cabaret in one of the side stages. So yeah,
That
me
is pretty
me
cool.
and Billie Eilish. I'll probably never meet her. Let's be real, but she's in the same bill as me. But yeah, no, really, really cool things are happening. It's fabulous, and yeah, let's see where it takes us.
I
So
mean, you might meet her because, um, like, what if Billie Eilish loves drag?
exactly, you can imagine. Yeah,
And then, there's going to be a lot of singers and stuff there, and not many drag queens.
not many
So,
saxophone
not many
players. Billie
saxophone.
Eilish, hear that?
Yeah, not many saxophone players. In case she wants a backing drag
Yeah,
queen saxophone player for one of her
why the
songs.
fuck not?
I
Let's do
reckon
it.
you might meet her though. Do you know
Let's
what I mean?
do
If she's in the thing and then she gets wind that there's a drag queen, maybe she'll come along and
maybe
just
she will.
show her
Oh
face. Who
well,
else is playing?
I don't even know. I haven't looked at the bill. I know she's on. I think it's quite early doors in terms of like.
What type? What genre? Like what type of music is it?
I
A bit
mean,
of everything.
when I went there in 2009, like the Prodigy,
My
My Chemical Brothers.
Chemical
Sorry,
Romance.
no, Chemical Brothers. Is what I wanted to
Oh,
say. Were the big bills, you know. So but now Billie Eilish, so I suppose like eclectic pop mix, like kind of like what Primavera does as well. There's like kind of like big, like big pop stars, but
mm.
then scattered with like lots of different, indie bands and stuff. I think there's lots going on in it. But it's a really fab, really, really fun festival. That's next August.
I remember Chemical Brothers played here for Sonar a few years ago, and I went with a few friends. We got a ticket last minute. And I was absolutely fucked, and then I was walking down to see Chemical Brothers. Just remember walking down there. Next thing I knew, I woke up face down on the floor by the waltzers at like 4 o'clock in the morning. Most people were gone. I was
Def-
like, remember
that
nothing.
definitely sounds like Chemical Brothers to
I
me.
remember absolutely nothing of the whole festival. I literally
Wow.
got there, walked towards the Chemical Brothers, woke up by the waltzers. That was it.
Money well spent.
Yeah, money. Yeah, literally like 95 euros or something I spent for a last minute night ticket.
Christ.
Um, yeah, well, I think we will start to wrap it up here. I think
We've got a long run
we've
there,
had a long
yeah.
run.
Uh-huh.
I will add links to everything in, but where can people find you? Where's the best place to find you?
So I'm on Instagram mostly, and Bonnie Oui Laddie. The "we" is not WEE though. It's the French for yes, like Bonnie Oui Laddie, like Bonnie. Yes, it's a boy. Um,
So
Laddie.
BONNIEOUILADDIE.
That's the one. You got it.
Bonnie Oui Laddie.
I'm on Twitter as well. I've got a YouTube channel that I'm trying to get kickstart properly again. But yeah, definitely on those socials. And we're doing a drag dinner every month in Vivinos, which is a fabulous little wine bar in Born,
In Barcelona.
in Barcelona. And like I said, the Pluma gig is the last Friday of every month in Believe and on Balmes in Barcelona. And then if you follow my socials, you can follow all my shenanigans and what I'm up to, and all my porn boys as well. You can see what they're
So
up to.
is there anything else crazy that's on the agenda for 2023?
I'm doing the Grabbies again.
Grabbies
I've
again.
been rehired for them, and I can imagine I'll be doing more porny stuff and stuff. It's all to kick off.
Is the
Um,
Grabbies is it extravagant?
it's wild. It was the most fabulous weekend of my life.
Where is it?
It was in Torremolinos in Malaga,
Oh.
and it was a 3-day event, and oh my god, by the Sunday I was like, I never want to see a dick in my life again. That's fucking like Jesus, but it was fantastic. It was the most fun, and everyone's like surprisingly enough in the porn industry. It was so friendly, so lovely. Treated me when I was Bonnie, treated me like the queen, like a reina, and then when I was myself, treated like part of the team, like one of the boys. It was really nice.
Aw.
It was like a very much a exploration of the masculine and feminine, code switching with that. But it was really interesting, and they were the most lovely, sometimes misunderstood people. But I had a really, really, really nice time with them.
Yeah, it's like I would love to. I'd love to just like experience something like that, but then I'm also a bit like, whoa, would it be too intense for me? Because I'm like,
You can always take a step back, but if you
yeah,
see it, to see it at least is something is pretty special.
yeah. Something's just. I think one of the.
I can only hear one side.
I can hear one side.
Yeah.
So the last thing that I always ask, I don't know what's happened here. Last thing I always ask, this is the quest for wisdom. Do you have words of wisdom for the audience?
I've got loads. I'm going to try and narrow it down. I think because what we're talking about today is more about like gender and expression and that sort of thing. And something that's really stuck with me today is about what you said about your clothing, and saying that wear whatever the fuck you want to wear, because but make sure it's you, because I think the package matters. Don't judge a book by its cover, but we do. But we do. So yeah, the package matters. Like, so get your if the RuPaul, I don't hate letting our RuPaul quote again, but we're all born naked and the rest is drag. So drag it up. Make sure you'll always look your most fabulous.
This is
And
RuPaul's number one promo.
I know, fuck. And make sure you're looking as the way you want to look, the way you want to present yourself. It's important.
Okay, those lovely words of wisdom from yourself. So, also have a little tradition at the end of this where I will give you a little gift.
Ah, a present.
Get yourself a Quest for Wisdom t-shirt.
Yes, fabulous. In black, just my color. Oh, it's good. Oh, look, the quality.
It's very good quality.
Very nice. Thank you so much, darling. I love it.
Give me a hug.
Thank you. Yes, absolutely. Glam, thank you so much. Thank you for having me on.
Thank you.
Fun.
This has been great. I've learned a lot. I hope everybody else has. Farewell for now.
Bye.
Goodbye. Thank you for listening to the Quest for Wisdom podcast with your host, Conor Monaghan. If you enjoyed the episode and would like to support the show, then please like it, subscribe, and leave a review on whichever platform you are using. This small act is a massive help and is hugely appreciated. You can find more information about all of our guests on thequestforwisdom.com and follow us at The Quest for Wisdom on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter for exciting updates. We also have a Patreon account for anyone who would like to contribute towards the running of the show. Finally, I would like to thank the Comedy Clubhouse in Barcelona for allowing us to record here and for their ongoing support. If you are ever in Barcelona, make sure to check it out for daily shows of comedy and performance art in English. Farewell for now.